So Archangel Metatron is saying that either people are too, sorry, it's my cats, either people are too invested in just science or too invested in just faith and personal experience. Both are valuable in different ways. So for some, science can prove that science can prove that matters of faith are real, if you could say, although it's just a human construct of what's real and what's not, because it's all real. But the important thing to remember is it's all spiritual. Just because it's different doesn't mean it's not spiritual. So when you have people just focusing on science, they shut their mind off to the other possibilities that can help them to bring in and channel information to look into, let's say. That's their form of spirituality. And then you have people who think science is limited and, are slightly even resentful towards science for making them feel invalidated, because the matters they believe in are matters of faith, matters that can not necessarily be proven empirically. So, but if people were open to all, then you can take aspects of both and use them together. Because humanity's not quite at a point yet where people can blindly accept, let's say, matters of faith. And sometimes matters of faith can drive people to turn their minds off and can lead them in directions that are not empowering or growth-inducing. So people can get stuck in believing what other people are telling them to believe. But the thing is that with both sections of, let's say, groups of people, scientific versus spiritual or faith-based, both are stuck listening to what other people are telling them still. Now, even people who say that they're spiritually enlightened and have had their own personal journeys with things are still working within a certain paradigm that they feel comfortable with it, which is normal. So we have to accept that it's difficult for the human mind to process matters of say, spiritual matters or scientific matters without the grounding aspects of it belonging somewhere, the information coming from a source of some sort. So that's part of human nature, is that need for validation of things. And eventually this will start to kind of disintegrate into more of a acceptingness for many different types of perspectives. But even, Uriel's coming in and talking about politically, saying that you can see this in politics because people are very much creating a divisive environment because of their paradigms and their faith and what they feel, what paradigms speak to them the most. And people forget even sometimes that they are just buying into another paradigm that someone else created. It's a collective consciousness decision for that particular collective group to attach to a certain level of collective consciousness. Now we're not measuring the light of scale of light for that collective consciousness, because what we consider light and dark is on a spectrum of light. So we're not weighing this is not discussing which is better or worse or anything like that. It's just merely looking at it as a light spectrum. So we have different spectrums of light and different variations of this and different manifestations. And so you can see this politically, how people have almost lost themselves and their individuality in these types of alignments of paradigms. And this is part of humanity trying to understand themselves better. This is part of them trying to... Interesting, so Raphael's coming in saying emotionally heal. Raphael saying this is part of humanity processing their wounds by creating this divisive environment, because the paradigms are created by the wounds, and these are wounds that are part of the human consciousness and the entire history of humanity, not just now. So it may seem like it's just now, it's the time we're living in that's causing this, but it's actually our entire human existence worth of, from the very beginning, our entire existence's worth of collective karma and unhealed energies that are manifesting now into this era. And this is what you might call the age of Aquarius. So there's a lot of things going to be challenged, a lot of new ideas. Sorry, that's my cat playing with her toy in the background. There's going to be a lot of things challenged within these this kind of energy. So you're going to see kind of a resurgence in things that may be considered an old energy, like dogmatic energies from the past, when people were controlling each other with their own paradigms that they thought were right. And then Metatron's jumping in and saying, this is why we're using these examples of science and politics, because these are big areas where people create divisiveness. People say, don't teach creation because it's against the Bible. And then other people say, don't teach what's in the Bible because that's against creation, and that's against science, and science is fact. Metatron's saying what humans deem as fact is only relevant within their unique perspective, their bubble of consciousness. So actually, universal truth is not the same as a human paradigm of truth, right? So imagine there's a whole other bigger bubble with a whole other set of information and events that could produce a different truth than the insular kind of bubble that we are within, being incarnated on Earth into certain groups and certain families and certain belief systems and having had certain experiences. So there's many levels of consciousness beyond what we can perceive right now. Some are starting to bring in this information, and it seems very out there for people. Like people who are channeling this information, it's more of a universal consciousness, energy, and wisdom. People will look at them as odd, maybe, or out of their minds, or things like that. But that's just because it's difficult for people to acknowledge that they don't know what they know, or that they don't understand. There's no such thing as truth, as an ultimate truth, really, because we live in a multi-dimensional multiverse, and anything that you can think of has probably happened. It's just not on our timeline, maybe, but there's someone in some other version of this reality, or other spin-off realities of that reality, that have participated in it, and that's a different history than we have, right? So there's a timeline where Lincoln didn't win, and there's slavery continued for much longer, for example. But we don't consider that part of our history, because that's not part of our paradigm of our United States history, the timeline that we were in. So we don't see that as true because it didn't happen in our timeline. But it doesn't make it not true, right? So truth is an elusive word, they're saying. They're saying this together. Truth is an elusive word, and people should start to open their minds, and it's uncomfortable. Sorry, she's really going at the cat toy over there. People should really start to open their minds to the idea that truth is relative. The truth about truth is that truth is relative. That's what they're saying. Truth is something that is our best attempt at organizing information. And so we talk about facts and truth as what we can prove. And we see this in political debates. We see this in our laws and our governing systems. We see this in science versus religion. We see this in cultures, cultural perceptions of other cultures and peoples. We see this as studies of the workings of the earth, when really we have only a very tiny fraction of what is Mother Earth, what is Earth, what does it mean to live on Earth, and what does it mean for Earth to exist. We really don't know. We pretty much don't know anything, but we still consider ourselves to have enough truth that we can discriminate between us and others. Raphael stepping forward, and I'm seeing this very pink light right now. He's bringing forward a message of understanding, and he's saying this message may make you feel uncomfortable. Those of you listening, it could make you feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is learning, and humans learn best through many forms of discomfort. So if you think of discomfort, you think of pain as on a scale of discomfort, right? You think of emotional suffering on a scale of discomfort, or frustration. All these things, this is like a massive scale of discomfort, and that's pretty much, we're here to experience various forms of discomfort because it's challenging to us. It'll challenge our views. Now, being a physical species in any incarnation, not only just on Earth, is difficult as that species grows and learns. Nova. Because we are distracted by our physical surroundings. It's understandable that humans would look at their surroundings, or any type of race on any planet, in any system, would look around and think that what they can see is the truth, because it's very difficult for a mind, a physical mind, a physical aspect of the mind, the brain, let's say, to rationalize what's not there, or to rationalize aspects of consciousness that you can't see, touch, feel, or quantify. So when you have people who get really scared about things that they can't see or don't know, it's just their reaction because they are trying to survive. And the brain is wired for survival, but it also is wired for a grand level of access to truths that are much greater than what we consider to be truth here. There's been people in our society, inventors, and they're showing me Tesla as a great example of minds that were way ahead of their time. They're way ahead of the collective level of consciousness, because at their time that they were incarnated, because they weren't tapping into just the level of consciousness that was most directly around them. They were actually tapping into the universal consciousness, and there's also many degrees of universal consciousness and many dimensions of universal consciousness. So just even tapping into the most basic level of universal consciousness is vastly more illuminating than even just, the highest consciousness here on Earth. It's very interesting what they're showing me. So Tesla was tapping into levels of universal consciousness, which made him feel very isolated in society. It made him feel he had to be kind of alone, because he didn't really feel like he related to other human beings, because he literally wasn't at the same consciousness level. He could vaguely survive in society, but it was difficult for him because it was like a mismatch of consciousness. So that's very difficult. And there are people that come in on this earth all the time like that. Not everybody who has the awareness of universal consciousness and can tap into the universal consciousness has even made it so far as to be known in any way. So there's many who found the connection to universal consciousness to be too much in this matrix that we live in, because it's not supported widely. Even within spiritual communities, they're showing me, they're still tapping into a limited level of consciousness that's closer to Earth than they realize. Anybody who totes that type of paradigm as knowing the truth or being enlightened is actually not referring to the greater universal consciousness. They're referring to a local consciousness. And there's aspects of universal consciousness they're pulling in, but the fact that someone is, it's funny how they say this word fact. Let's say the situation in where someone makes themselves a guru or claims to know the answers is automatically showing the level in how deep in the matrix, the Earth matrix, some might call it the Maya matrix, how deep they actually are in the matrix, but they're just if you were to imagine the Matrix, let's just say it's a big bubble, because Earth is round and this is something we can easily visualize. Let's say you have this bubble, and the top of the bubble, like the North Pole of the bubble, is like all the way up here, and then you have the lowest pole, let's just make it smaller, is like down here, the South Pole of the consciousness bubble of the Maya matrix. But then you have people who've gone here, and you've got people who've gone here, and comparatively it's a huge shift. It's a huge, massive shift of consciousness. But then you get people who have really kind of gotten real close to the to the North Pole of that Maya matrix consciousness, so they can appear to be very enlightened, and they are for this matrix for sure. But anyone who is claiming that they have the answers and that they are tapping into something, the greater consciousness, there's really the ego involved, which means it's still within the consciousness of the Maya matrix, the bubble that we live in here. Now there are people who are tapping into the universal consciousness. So here's the North Pole, here's the South Pole of consciousness, and they're moving and moving, and they're starting to go outside of it. But here's what happens, is inevitably you will be stuck in both. So here's the thing. It's like we have an outlet. It's like we have an outlet that we don't realize we have. Let's imagine a light socket in the back of your head. You have a light socket. You have an electrical socket in the back of your head, and it's a plug. It's ready for a plug, right? And you just don't even know it's there, but you can take the universal consciousness plug and plug it into the back of your head, and now you're connected. And you can traverse the universal consciousness in a variety of ways, in a variety of levels, but you're also still grounded in the Maya matrix. So as long as you're physically incarnated, you will also be a part of the consciousness of the Maya matrix in the varying degrees. So sometimes it's a lot for people sometimes to tap into both. And because we're also challenged by the Maya matrix, you will have conflicts, and it's easy to grab bits of the universal consciousness and digest it in the Maya matrix, and then feel like you are better than or enlightened. And the truth is, enlightenment is another word that's very misunderstood as well and misused. We can come here and gain a certain level of knowledge and wisdom, and that brings us to the high level of the Maya matrix, the North Pole, right? We can be near there, and we can tap into universal consciousness. And you can learn from these people who do this, and it actually does very much help the Maya matrix inhabitants. This helps the Earth inhabitants. But then you have people who don't even realize they're tapping into the universal consciousness. And these are people that a lot of times do end up, Metatron saying, in science. Ironically, they're not the spiritual gurus or the yogis. They're not the religious leaders. They're actually, a lot of times they end up in science. And they don't really have the need to be followed. It's more of them kind of stowing themselves away a lot of times. They like a lot of solitude to process this information that they're trying to put into the Maya matrix framework that they're familiar with. So it's very interesting. So it's not to say, this is Raphael, not to say that you are not awakening when you are learning the higher levels of the Maya matrix. You're understanding the higher levels of the Maya consciousness towards the North Pole. It's not to say that is undesirable or wrong in any way. There's no judgment. We come with no judgment. This is merely us trying to explain to you the vastness of what's there. And they're saying that, with that said, no one human being has all of the answers, because it's distributed across unlimited consciousness level, basically. And then there's a whole other levels of consciousness outside of that. So no one being that is physically incarnated has all of the answers. So, but that's the God energy, the source energy. It has the awareness of all levels of everything. And the source energy has created aspects of itself to help manage all of these levels on a more granular view. So source energy sees and knows and has created all that we know. But there's also levels that are matrices that are made for various types of experiences and various types of worlds and dimensions that basically can be managed by other aspects of source, including, let's say, angels and other energies like them. There's so many types of energies that humans don't even fully know about, that some of our ancestors may have known about and may have called gods, but there's many other energies that we are not aware of that manage the earth and manage all matrices across all realities, across all matrices, across all realities, across all dimensions, to help to guide, to help to specialize in an aspect of the God consciousness, the source consciousness, and to disseminate the information. So for example, these angels have specialties and they specialize in certain aspects of source. They kind of are the figures that represent them, and there's other parts of their team that are also representing this energy at various levels, and they can come and intertwine with us and teach us without us even realizing. So it's a very complex system, and it's impossible to describe, and I can't even, as a human being, process the information that they have. I'm just processing the chunk that they're giving me that I can be explained a bit. But the point is that no one has all the answers, and it's by design, because everyone has their own version of the truth. It's all true at the end of the day. It all is. Now, there are certain energies that are more destructive than others, but at the end of the day, it all leads to growth. So their message is for humanity to understand that they're not to degrade themselves and to grovel at various forms of energy they deem as higher than themselves. They're not trying to say to do that. It's more of a openness of understanding that we are part of a beautiful system. But by idolizing people who are claiming to have mastered consciousness in any way, who seek to be known and have followers, to seek to publicize their image in regards to the spiritual realm, in regard to the religious realm, and any other realm that tries to peddle a type of truth. They're just working within mostly this Maya matrix, and that's okay, and that's totally fine. But seek the truth within your inner self. You are the universe. Every single cell within you is a copy of the universe. So you don't need someone else to tell you the truth, because there is no truth, because it all is. So when you're working with the discovery of your own faith in things, look inward. It's good to listen to other people. It's good to create communities around ideas, but to not lock yourself into paradigms that you create, because the universe is within you and without you. So with that, that was their message for you today. I know I just learned a lot. That was really interesting. Thank you so much to Archangel Metatron, Raphael, and Uriel. They are combining their energies to give this message because they are helping to assist in the systematic overturning of paradigms, in loving, in the utmost love and light, but they are trying to help people and uplift people out to be outside of their paradigms. And people will shift paradigms throughout their lives many, many, many times. And sometimes they don't, but a lot of times they shift without realizing they're switching paradigms. When you're reading a textbook of information and you identify with that, you're switching it to that another paradigm, or you're adding a paradigm to your mini collective consciousness bubble. So just know that no one has all the answers, no one is superior over others, and that everyone has a little bit of the truth. And to not uplift someone else instead of uplifting yourself and your connection to the universe, because nobody, and I mean nobody, can replace or be better than the connection between you and the universal consciousness, the source consciousness, the source energy. So in this age of spiritual gurus and science's dogma, they want to start to merge these energies and to see that we can identify with none of it, but we can also identify with all of it. And this is a difficult process for humanity, so it's going to take a long time, but we're in a critical period right now during this age of Aquarius of challenging these concepts. So you're going to see a lot more people breaking down these paradigms, people who are specially designed to incarnate, to break down paradigms, to be more maybe aggressive than others in breaking down paradigms. So now the very strange aspect of all this is that by breaking down a paradigm, you're in a paradigm of breaking down a paradigm. I mean, it's like you can't, it's funny the way they're showing it. But this, at the end of the day, it's just about understanding. That's what it really is, the energy of understanding and love. And I'm not talking about a canned love that is sold in spiritual social media posts and, you know, in gurus and getaways and camps and all this stuff, which is really fun and awesome and great, but that's a commercialized, at the end of the day, version of spirituality. Spirituality is not a commercial endeavor. It's an inner truth. So yeah, but without making this too long, they're kind of getting me a little emotional here. I just feel, it's just a feeling of, they're giving me like a little, this feeling of connection, and saying, you know, we wish to work with anyone who will work with us. So you can call upon these three energies in particular work very well together, and it's very interesting. I could see why they're a trio in this type of energy, but they work differently with other energies as well. But for this particular energy, this consciousness, transformation of the idea of consciousness energy, it's, you know, they're really trying to assist us and to shift our perspective. There's going to be a lot of people who are experiencing things more kind of, you know, life-changing spiritual experiences, near-death experiences, ET experiences, all these things are going to start picking up speed more because they are built in to be part of the consciousness shift. Now, however, the understanding of ETs and things like that is only just a little starter pack for consciousness potential, but it will get us a little outside of the Maya matrix, which is really nice. And so the other star energies, you could call them star people, ETs, whatever, are coming into, their energies are coming in to help kind of ease into that awareness as well. And that's why you have so many star seeds, so many star people kind of silently working with beings, working with a lot of scientists especially to try and inspire science to move in a more spiritual direction. And over the next few decades, you're going to start to see really a merge happening between the two. Not a complete merge necessarily, but there's going to be more of an acceptance. They're going to start to dance together more. So with this, I hope that this message, you know, was helpful for you guys. Let me know if you have any questions below. I can make this a series with them, because this energy trio is very, very interesting. It's very comforting, and it's very, it's a cool blend of like very scientific, intellectual, like emotional, and just like healing, and also kind of protective in a way. So let me know if you have had any experiences with these archangels, Metatron, Uriel, and Raphael, and any others. I also work with other angelic energies and beings as well. So I look forward to bringing in more of their messages. I'm just simply a little vessel here, just trying to give a voice box to this energy, but I hope that the others out there who feel called to divulge this energy, to be a part of this energy, to give it a voice, continue to do so. Yeah, so anywho, thanks for watching, and we'll be back with more videos. On the Maya Matrix note, if you'd like to book a reading with me, you can check out my partners in my website at thehappyhealingshop.com, where we offer Reiki healing, tarot card readings, intuitive life path consulting, as well as psychic mediumship. So yeah, we try to just bring in as much information as possible. As always, decide for yourself what resonates with you and what doesn't. Use your connection to the greater universal consciousness to take in the information that's best for you. Never just take what someone says as fact. It's just feel out the energies and see and dissimulate the ones that are best for you. If you want to join our Happy Healers Facebook group, that's what it's called. So visit Facebook and join the group, and let's get the conversation started. It's still a new group, so we're looking for people to come in and start sharing their knowledge, experience, ask questions, get guidance, and create a safe community for people to talk about these things. Also, if you would like to work with us, another way is we host psychic nights in the LA area once a month right now. Possibly we'll start doing two a month, but right now we're doing once a month psychic nights, and we hope that you guys can make it out, and we can have some do readings and discover new aspects of this world together. So with that, we hope to see you around, and thanks for watching.